Hi there, I'm Sarah Zarella, a portrait and wedding photographer and your host for Wedding Secrets Unveiled. This is a podcast where we cut through the complexity of wedding planning, leaving you with everything you need to know direct from the industry experts. If you want to simplify your wedding planning, while having fun, of course, you came to the right place. Join me while I guide you through your planning, starting from your engagement to your big day where you say, I do. After photographing for the past 18 years, I am sharing with you tips and tricks to cut through the excess noise because I believe from the moment you said yes, your planning experience should be a magical time in your life. Here you'll find episodes that are fun, stress-free, and straight to the point, with a fresh, honest take about the reality of what you really need to know about planning your perfect day. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. Who does not want to look and feel fabulous on their wedding day? I have yet to meet someone who does not want to take this for high importance on their special day. That's why I'm so excited for you to meet our guest today, Keri, who is the head stylist and owner of Radiance Artistry. We will be talking all about the perfect tips and tricks on finding your ideal makeup artist along with hairstylist for your wedding day. Do you know where to start with this? If this is of importance to you and you want to know some key points on how to find the perfect match, then this episode is for you. So, in this episode, we're going to be going through Keri's 5 points you need to consider and look for when finding your perfect stylist. She's also going to talk about the importance of trials and timelines and why they're so important for your day. So, we're here to serve you and help you find the perfect stylist for your wedding day to make you look and feel fabulous. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Keri. So let's dive in. Hello, Keri. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here. You are my girl, my go-to to make me look and feel fabulous. Every time someone sees a picture of me on my Instagram or my Facebook, along with Dan or myself, granted, Dan doesn't get his hair and makeup done with you, but I know I do. It's you. You're the master behind the creation.
Oh, thank you.
So for those people who don't know you, though, can you kind of go over who you are, who you serve, and what you do in your business?
Well, I got my first job when I was in college working at the Mac counter in 2006. I was actually majoring in journalism communications at the time. I fell in love with doing makeup, and I just felt like I wasn't really working, and I knew I wanted to do something with that. I wasn't really sure what. I knew that, my parents owned businesses growing up. My mom owned an exercise studio. My dad owned a jewelry business, so it kind of ran in the family. It was something I enjoyed doing when I was little. I just didn't know what the entirety of the business would be, so I went and I got my aesthetics license to give myself more credentials. I traveled. I lived in Nashville. I lived in New Jersey, did makeup for various fashion shows, celebrities. Actually, Kimberly, can't remember her last name, from Little Big Town was one of my clients. Chapman. So that was fun, but I knew I wanted to live at home and raise a family. So when I moved back to Rhode Island, I opened up Radiance, and I've been doing that for the last 8 years, and I just can't picture myself doing anything else.
Awesome. So you basically came from a family of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
It was just following your dream.
Yeah.
8 years later, here you are.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
So let's just dive right into the nitty-gritty of being a stylist. What are some things that couples need to consider when they're hiring a makeup artist along with a hairstylist for their wedding?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, Sarah. There are so many talented people in this industry, but that, judging from a picture in their work doesn't actually mean that it's going to be a good experience from beginning to end. So I would start by saying, do you have a rapport or a vibe with your artist?
So your number one thing would be like, do you have a vibe or a rapport?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep. Your wedding day is so special. You want to feel relaxed, confident, comfortable. You want to know that they're going to be catering to you. So, someone that has really good customer service, I think would be, another thing. Timing is everything, so you want to make sure that they're prompt. And, just by backing that up, someone that's going to provide a timeline for you on the day of the wedding, but also keeping in mind, other vendors' timing.
So your number 2 would be just make sure they're prompt, because timing is pretty much everything.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep. So I would say if we're going to list things in order, number 3 would be experience. Someone can have been in the makeup business for a long time doing, say, photo shoots, but not necessarily weddings. So
good point.
You want somebody that has a lot of experience doing weddings so that they understand things that can go wrong. And
that's a really good point. Understand things that can go wrong and handle it with ease and care.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, obviously people haven't gotten married before, so they don't really understand. But on our end, it's like we know, so many different things that can happen that can just kind of derail the whole day.
Yeah. So like you said, you can have someone who's great at makeup, great at hair, but they have to have the experience in the wedding world.
Absolutely.
The practicability.
Yep.
And what would be your 4th?
Just to be really blunt, I would say someone that's able to check their ego at the door. Again, in this business, there's a lot of people that we could say are a little egotistical, and it gets in the way of being able to really serve the customer and give them what it is that they're looking for.
And what would be your final tip, your 5?
You get what you pay for.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So, Keri, you mentioned as one of your 5 key points to consider when looking for a perfect stylist to make sure that you vibe with your stylist. So what are some steps someone can take to make sure that they can do this?
Sure. So basically, in the beginning, I always try and do either a phone consultation or even a Zoom call with them just so they can get to know my personality and vice versa. I feel like a consultation will really allow them to know whether or not they're going to fit well with that person.
You probably know right away.
I would say, yeah.
You're right.
Again, I feel like it's more on their end to make the decision. It's not like I'm choosing who I'm going to work with, but
you probably know when you vibe with somebody.
Yeah.
At least I know. We do the same thing. Like, I'll get on the phone, I'll talk to somebody, I'll know right away. Again, it's their decision, but I'll know right away. I'm like, I vibed.
Yeah, totally.
I'm going to be their photographer.
Yeah, so it really only has to be like a 10-minute conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we do the trials. But the trials, I would say more over the last couple years are usually booked after the wedding is booked. But some brides will request a trial ahead of booking, in which case the trial, which is a 1-hour service, they'll be able to see the skill of the artist and then also, chat with them and see if it's a good fit.
Interesting. And then is there another key component out of making sure that you can vibe?
Yeah, just to touch upon what I was mentioning before, that you really want somebody that provides good customer service. You want someone that's going to really listen to what the person is looking for, as opposed to just doing what they think is going to look good or what they think is going to work, because in the end, if you give them what they're looking for, they're going to be happy.
So basically, to make sure that you can vibe with them, you recommend that they just get on the phone with you, do a trial with you,
yep,
and then just make sure that, in that trial, that you're catering to them.
Yes.
I can tell you a lot of times, I get asked often who I recommend for hair and makeup.
Yeah.
So I have my list, and I give it to them,
yep,
and I let them decide.
Yep.
And I actually tell them, I say, just get on the phone, talk to them. I say about 3. I give out 3 names. I think that's solid, because at that point, they can make I know that you guys are professionals.
Yep.
So I know you're going to do a good job. It's just a matter of who they click with.
Exactly.
But every now and then I'll get someone who hasn't asked me, and they've found their own hair and makeup, and they'll have gone through the trial. And then they call me up and they say, I went through a trial. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Who do you recommend?
Right.
So I think that it's interesting that you just gave the 3 steps, because that's kind of what I'm seeing. I see step 1, just get on the phone. And I hear step 2 sometimes it's very successful, and sometimes it's not.
And you know what? If it's not, then that just means they're closer to
their goal.
Yeah, figuring out what they want, what they don't want, whether it's a skill thing or just a personality thing. So yeah, I think the consultation and the trial
are key to making sure you vibe.
Yeah.
So you said number 2 and your 5 key points to consider when hiring a stylist was timing was everything. Can you dive in a little bit about what you mean by this, about the timing and importance?
Yeah, I think when I first started doing makeup, which is 15 years ago and definitely ages me, but I would just kind of get an idea of what time I needed to be there, and then there would just be like 10 girls, and we just had to do 10 girls' hair and makeup. But what I ran into at the time was, you know, sometimes the person that you needed next for makeup was getting their hair done, and then the makeup artist or hairstylist would end up waiting, 30 or 40 minutes for that person to come sit in the chair, and it wastes time.
Keri, can I just, not to totally interrupt you on this one, but I have so much to say about this. Can I, as a photographer, I have to second this for our listeners. Please, if you're listening to this, make sure your hair and makeup person understands exactly when you're getting into your dress.
Yeah.
It's a domino effect.
And it's like one of the first questions I ask them when I send them the questionnaire. Like, what time does your photographer want you to be dressed and like ready to leave, or in their robes because they're coming to take pictures, or sitting in the makeup chair because the bride wants hair and makeup photos?
Yeah, because a lot of times too, we might need the bride, but we don't need the bridesmaids.
Right.
So maybe you end with the bride and you start working the bridesmaids. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm so happy you brought this point up, because as a photographer, I'll just tell you a backstory. So I was just chit-chatting with another fellow photographer of mine over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I asked her how her wedding went. And she's like, it was awesome. She's like, it was absolutely awesome. She's like, it's so good to, be back full swing doing weddings, because obviously we had a little bit of a different year last year. And she says, you know what though, Sarah, I keep running into the same problem. She's like, hair and makeup always puts a halt on the day.
Yeah. And
she had a trouble where with the hair and makeup artist at this particular wedding just kept going and going and going. And she's like, how much more highlighter can you put on the person's chest? And we laugh, but it's true. She's like, Sarah, literally the timeline got pushed back by a half an hour. But what the couples don't understand is they want to look and feel great. So yes, of course they're going to have the hair and makeup artists keep doing what they're doing. And we want that. But they don't understand that also too, your ceremony is not getting pushed back.
No.
So if your hair and makeup takes all this time, what just happened was all that money that she spent on her photographer just got cut, because I'm not going to mention this photographer's name, but it's one of my good friends. But she was basically saying I couldn't do everything I talked to her about, because it was either she does everything, now the bride's late to the ceremony, or she just cuts out what the bride hired her to do. Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of money at stake, and so it's I guess also on the flip side, we've gotten to weddings where I have sent them timelines, which I'll get to in a second, and they're upstairs doing yoga and having to shower.
Right.
So, you have...
Communication is important.
Yeah, it's like you have both ends. But either way, I think in regards to a timeline, and I think that I pride myself on running a tight ship with that, the timeline is sent to the bride, I don't know, a week or two before the wedding to have them approve it, so that they can share it with their photographer and every other vendor involved in the day to make sure that it all is going to work together. And so that every bridesmaid can have an appointment time. So whether they're going to be there the entire time the services are going on, or they're just going to show up for their appointment time, at least they know when they need to be there and when they're going to be done.
No, and I think that's key. Like you said, it's communication and it's the timeline. But that, I just had to chime in on that one, because as a photographer, that's a pain point for me.
Yeah.
When she's still sitting in the makeup chair. And like you said, on the flip side, maybe you guys started later because of something that was miscommunicated, on the other end. So like you said, for you run a tight ship to make sure that everybody understands. And look, it's not, I think sometimes too, having a tight timeline relieves the stress of the day.
Yeah.
So it just makes everything flow so like naturally.
Yeah.
But I just
and
wanted
it's less stressful for the bride, because ultimately our goal as vendors is to make their day as stress-free.
Absolutely.
And, happy and fun as possible.
And work together.
Teamwork.
Teamwork. Exactly.
Teamwork makes the dream
But
work.
I'm just saying there's definitely when I see like you on the sheet, or there's other makeup artists too, I know I'm like, okay, great, this wedding's going to run on time. And then there's some people when I see on the sheet that I'm like, okay, I know that this is going to take a little bit longer. And then, because I've been doing this for so long, I just honestly just adjust.
Yeah.
I call the bride up and I say, we're going to move everything up a little bit.
Right. But, back to the whole ego thing, I think it's important if the makeup artist or whoever's running the show there that day is able to be aware enough of, timing and maybe things that are changing a little bit, then they can kind of speed things up, slow things down, or whatever they need to do, to make it work. And that's why a seasoned artist would understand that.
Well, that was your third point.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. Go into a little bit about your third point about having the experience. And you mentioned something like checking your ego at the door, basically. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's just really about the bride, in the experience the bride gets from beginning to end. Giving them their trial and asking them questions and showing them pictures and sending them a questionnaire and being open to constructive criticism. I feel like for me, I tell them, I really just want to make you happy. So even in the trial, if there's something that you don't like, please tell me. I'm not going to take offense to it. Like, I know that I'm really good at what I do. It's just a matter of, can we nail down what it is that you want? And I feel like a lot of people in this business who do hair and makeup wouldn't be able to receive the constructive criticism well. And so the bride would just say, I'm afraid to really say anything to them. I'm going to go to someone else.
Right. So so you're saying that for those people who are listening is just open up and tell them exactly what you want. So you're open to like Pinterest pictures and
whatever it takes, Sarah.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the consultation, like I kind of explain that to them and make them feel comfortable enough to come to me and let me know if there's something that they don't like, or if there's something they're not happy with, or if there's something that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Because if they're not comfortable, they're not going to come to me, and then they're going to go somewhere else. Yeah.
Right. So that kind of goes hand in hand with your third and fourth point is that, have the experience, make sure you have someone that has experience, but then also to make sure that, like, you, as your words would say, check your ego at the door. Like, you want to make sure that you have someone that just kind of listens to you. And
yes.
Especially with you being the experience, like you said, you're not worried that you're not going to get them what they're looking for. It's just you have to figure out what they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think with the client and the artist, it's a team effort.
The final point that you brought up was you get what you pay for. So let's dive into this a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Well, first off, what is an average cost of can we talk about the average?
Yeah. I would say our prices are pretty competitive. So
what's the average cost of the stylist is right now?
Yeah. So for hair, if you get both hair and makeup for the bride is $300.
Okay.
If you get both hair and makeup for an attendee, it's $180.
And do you have, is there like an industry standard where like you have to have a certain amount of people, or there's travel versus, kind of explain how hair and makeup would work for people who are listening to this that have actually never like even started to even look.
Yeah. So most of what we do are on-site services, in which case sometimes a travel fee does apply. But in general, we do have a minimum for on-site services, which would be around like 4 people.
4 people. Got it.
Yeah. And if they're getting hair and makeup, it would be like 8 services, whether it's the same person or different people.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
It just, a lot of the girls that work for me have second jobs, so it has to be worth their time, essentially.
And on a side note, do you find that a lot of the brides pick up the tabs for their bridesmaids, or do you find that the bridesmaids pay? I'm just curious of what you're seeing. Yeah,
I feel like Most of the time the brides pay for themselves. I would say, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20% of the time the brides will pick it up and kind of give it to them as their
bridesmaid gift.
Yeah.
Which
I think is super sweet. And we have gift certificates that we, can give to the bride to give to them as like a gift so they have something like tangible.
That's nice because a lot of times there's so much that goes into a wedding, like expenses for a bridal party.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a win-win because now the bride gets her girls to all look and feel fabulous, but at the same time the girls are not now paying a little extra expense. I was just curious because a lot of times I show up and it's, believe it or not, it's like right when the money transaction's happening because it's right towards the end.
Yeah.
And I do see a lot of times the bride paying. And I just always wondered, I'm like, you know what? I meant that, like, obviously I'm not going to ask them. I'm just curious. Like, are you finding that that's a gift that a lot of times the bride
a lot of time it's a gift. A lot of times it's a gift. But, we usually try and have the final payment be paid, like, well in advance. So there is no exchange of money on the day of. It just gets so chaotic and makes things a little bit more stressful. But, I mean, if I were a bridesmaid, I've been in a few weddings. I think it would be, amazing to have that paid for as a gift.
Right.
You get to look and feel good and not have to dish out the money.
So with that said, though, you get what you pay for it. So tell us a little bit about, what you get.
Well, I think someone who charges a little bit more is aware of industry prices, so they're competitive, but mainly it's just experience that you're paying for. The experience covers, the talent, the work ethic, the customer service, the knowledge of things that can go wrong, so it's all encompassing. Someone that isn't inexperienced, you may not pay as much, and their work might be, decent or maybe even great at that. But if they don't have the experience to back it up, then it could derail your day.
Like you talked about, you could be a great hair and makeup stylist, but maybe not used to weddings. And then there's and that's the same thing with my industry. I always tell people I could be like 10 times better a photographer if I could just photograph. But being a wedding photographer, there's so much more that we're managing.
Yeah.
Like not just
corralling.
And corralling, managing, orchestrating, like I'm dealing with family dynamics. I'm dealing with emotions of my couples. I'm there with them all day, so I have to know when to step away, step back.
Yep.
I'm not just doing photography. So I'm sure the same thing with you. Like you could have a great hair and makeup artist, but if they're not used to the dynamics and the personalities and the timelines of the wedding day, it's a whole other game.
Absolutely.
So you just recommend making sure that you do have someone that specializes in weddings
and has the experience. Yeah.
Well, Keri, we talked about your 5 points. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to kind of go over, when someone should book a stylist, some secrets and tips and tricks that you can give to people, and then you're going to kind of give us some, like, little takeaways on some of your favorite products.
Awesome.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you like what you're hearing, I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. And don't forget, you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate if you left a fabulous review on Apple Podcasts. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support. And now, let's get back to the episode. So welcome back, podcast friends. So we're here with Keri. So Keri, we talked about your 5 key points, but let's talk about when should our couples book a stylist?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I find that hair and makeup is usually the last on the list of vendors, which is totally understandable, but I think people don't they fail to know that we do book a year in advance. So I would say like a year.
A year is a good point.
I mean, not to say that we don't have openings 6 months, 3 months, even 2 months out, but there's a high probability that you won't get your date.
And once you book your stylist, when do you start doing trials?
Yeah, so we usually recommend trials 2 to 3 months before the wedding. And is
it because people's taste can change?
Yes, okay. I was just going to say that. sometimes they'll come in for a trial before they book just to kind of see if we're a good fit. But then, their wedding isn't for another year, and so many things have changed, So a lot of times in that situation, they'll come back in for another one closer to the wedding.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny that you say that because I always tell my couples, I say, go for a trial when you do your engagement pictures, which honestly, sometimes their engagement pictures are about a year out.
Yeah.
So obviously that's not your wedding trial. That's probably just trying out a hair and makeup stylist. And then, like you said, you can do second trials. So do you have special pricing for second trials? How does that work?
Yeah. So the trials typically they're $90 for hair, $90 for makeup. If for whatever reason the bride was unhappy with the trial or just felt like she wanted to see another look specifically with the makeup, that they should come in, and we usually discount the second trial. But for the first hair trial, the hairstylist does a really good job at kind of doing like 2 to 3 looks in that 1 hour time slot because it's easy to transition.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's easy to just like curl the hair and kind of like transition it from down to half up to up in that hour. Whereas like makeup, there's really not like you'd have to like wipe it all off and start over. So
that's really interesting that you can do that. You can do the 3 different looks or different looks with hair. But like you said, obviously with makeup, it's the one look.
You can change the lip color easily, but not too much else.
Fair enough. Well, what are some myths? Give us a scoop. What are some hair and makeup myths that are out there?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind, I would say, the lash extensions that, is huge these days, which I happen to love. But I would say they're not the best option for the wedding day. And the reason is the shadow tends to fall into the lash extensions. And because you can't put mascara or really anything else on them, it tends to kind of fade the black into like more of like a white gray, which you don't really want for pictures. So we recommend skipping the lash extensions just for the wedding day and getting the adhesive extensions that we put on that are temporary.
Well, you know what? That's okay because they do say with lash extensions that you should give your eyelashes a
break, right?
So there you go. Plan your break around your wedding day. You know what? It's funny that you say that because you recently did my hair and makeup for a photo shoot that I had, and I have obviously lash extensions. I went on the trend and I beautified myself. I figured, hey, we're wearing back in the day. When I say back in the day, a few months ago, we were wearing masks constantly. So I was like, let me do something with my eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And you had to actually put fake ones on.
Yeah.
On top
and
of
I
my
think
lashes.
The reason, sometimes the reason of putting lash adhesive on to the extensions is one, because someone needs a fill, which is totally fine.
Right.
Or two, it darkens the lash line so that if shadow does fall in, it doesn't change the way the extension looks.
I think with mine, it was also too, just wasn't dramatic enough. A lot of times the lash extensions that you have, you want it to be like everyday look, where on your wedding day or for photos, you want a little bit more of a dynamic look. So yeah. I guess myth number 1 is ditch the lashes.
Ditch the lash extensions?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What's another myth that you can tell us about that you can just, cut that myth out of the equation?
Sure. So airbrush makeup obviously is like a huge thing these days. I have gotten a lot of people that have come to me who have never had it done, or they have gotten airbrush makeup from another artist. But bottom line is there are a ton of different airbrush makeup lines, just like there's different foundation lines. So if someone had a bad experience with airbrush makeup from a different artist and mentioned that maybe it was cakey or thick or, they didn't like it, it doesn't mean that airbrush isn't for them necessarily. The airbrush makeup that we use is a silicone base, so it's water resistant, but it's a natural satin skin finish. So it basically looks like you're not wearing foundation. But if they cry, it's not going to have the drip line on their face.
Fair enough. So how about hair extensions? I mean, we talked a lot about makeup, but let's kind of get into a little bit about hair.
Yeah. So the hair extensions are also super popular. There is one specifically called the Halo, which is like a fountain of hair that has like a, not a wire, but like a clear, I don't know what you would call
Is that the one that connects? I've seen a lot of my
Yeah, it kind of just sits on the head.
On the head. I've seen a lot of my brides get that recently.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. It's like a thick, long, if you want it to be long, piece. However, with that one, you can only wear your hair down or half up.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it. So because once you bring it up, you can actually see the unit, huh?
Yeah, or it'll kind of like fall,
Yes.
like lift up.
Mm-hmm.
There are, though, clips on the side, so if they are like swinging their head around,
mm-hmm.
it's not going to fall off.
Fair enough. So since I have you, give our listeners some little tips, tricks, secrets of the makeup world. What is like a takeaway or like a favorite product? Like just give us the inside scoop, something that you know about that you're willing to share with us.
Yeah, so I am definitely a product junkie.
Are you one of those ones that like you open up your medicine cabinet and you just kind of take over the whole cabinet?
Yeah. But I am pretty good at like cleaning it out, if there's things I've had in there for like 10 years or whatever, I try and toss it. But yeah, I just love products.
Fair enough.
Sephora is like, a kid in a candy store for me. But yeah, if I had to narrow things down for brides to have in their collection of products for the wedding or their bridal shower or their bachelorette, I would say NARS Orgasm Blush is a great one. It comes in a cream, like stick blush for people that have like dry skin, or there is like a powder version of it. It's just like a peachy pink with a little gold, like
Does it have a little gold shimmer in it? I think I have that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think I do. Like a
Do
little
you not
gold
use
shimmer.
it?
No, because I'm super like rosacea. I don't, but I have it. I look at it. It looks nice.
Do you not wear foundation, Sarah?
Honestly, I don't even wear makeup unless you do it.
Yeah.
I just don't. I should start thinking about this.
I have to be honest. Like during the week, it's not my go-to thing either. I like a lot of mascara. I used to love lipstick and lip gloss, but these days,
Hey, we're back. We're back. The masks are off. We're back. I thought about that. I was thinking, I'm like, ooh, dentists must be having a field day right now. Because I bet you, like, a couple months ago when we were wearing the mask 24/7, I bet you a lot of people had braces on, fixing their teeth. And I was
funny
thinking,
you say that. I'm a little delayed, but I'm getting my Invisalign.
You should have got it all last year.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking, too, I'm like, lipstick sales must be down.
I know.
But, okay, so back to our NARS Orgasm Blush.
Yes. But even if you have pink cheeks, because it has like a peachy undertone, it's not like, it wouldn't be terrible
So maybe
for
I
someone
should
that
try
has like really pink cheeks.
There's a reason why I have it. Somebody must have recommended it to me. And because I always have red cheeks, they, like you said,
It balances it out a little.
I'll try it. I'll
Yeah.
put it on tomorrow.
Go for it. Let me know how it goes.
I will. I'll send you a picture.
All right. So speaking of lipstick, my favorite one would be Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk.
I love these names.
Yeah, so fun. Very risque. It's like I would say a purpley pink, but pretty subdued, but enough to give you color in photos, which is huge. And then Ardell Lash Adhesive Strips, number 421. They kind of mimic like eyelash extensions, and they're super natural, but give your eye like a nice pop.
Awesome. Totally off the subject. I was just thinking about something. The red lipstick, that's just popular.
Yeah.
Is there like a go-to? Like a red go-to that you have? I mean, it's red hard to match.
Oh my God, there's just so many variations
I have
of red.
not found a red lipstick that looks good with me, and I'm noticing that it's because different reds have a blue undertone or peach undertone.
Yeah.
You're probably not asked that a lot on weddings because you're not going to wear like that.
No, there's definitely people that get the red.
Really?
If they're going for like that classic look.
I love it. I just love it.
I think it's beautiful. It's pretty timeless too. But yeah, MAC, naturally I worked for them, so I like go to their colors, but MAC red is a pretty like generic red.
MAC red, I'll look into
Ruby Woo.
Speaking of MAC, I am not a makeup expert. You just heard me say I don't wear makeup, but MAC Naked Lunch.
Ooh.
That I do wear.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So any
nice,
listeners out there, like Google that because Naked Lunch eyeshadow for somebody like myself who doesn't wear a lot of makeup, I just love it. I'll put it on every now and then.
That's like one of the most popular colors we use in bridal. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's like just enough,
Ooh, I'm trendy on the makeup.
Yeah, girl.
See that? All right, so tell me a little bit about like beauty timeline preparation tips.
Yeah, so in preparation for the wedding, I think the number one thing that people sometimes forget about is their skin. So
very true.
Yeah, you have to take care of your skin. Exfoliating is like number one. Facials are huge. It's great to prepare the skin for photos and then like obviously the makeup that's going on it. So I would say if you can and your budget allows it, try and get facials monthly, 6 to 8 months prior to your wedding.
Interesting. Okay, so monthly facials.
Yeah.
About 6 to 8 months prior to your wedding. So just have that be part of your regimen is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a good skincare regimen.
All right.
To do at home. We do facials, so.
There you go. So go see Keri if you want a facial.
Yeah, and we offered 20% off of facials leading up to the wedding for the brides.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a nice little tip.
Got to make my girls glow.
What's some other little tips that you can think about that you should tell people that they should start doing leading up to their beauty timeline?
Yeah. So spray tans are big. I would say 90% of our brides usually get a spray tan for their wedding.
Do you do those, Keri?
We do. Yep.
So I got a question for you. Being a photographer, why is it sometimes
orange?
Yes. You know that I like being a photographer. Like maybe bust my myth right here because I am so against spray tans for. But tell me, is it just that they're doing the wrong thing?
Again, there's so many different
because I've photographed you before and I don't see that on you.
Yeah. You have to get a solution or go to a place like Pro Radiance.
There you go.
Who has spray tans that have no orange in them.
Okay, hallelujah. So guys, if you're listening, just go to see Keri because your photographer does not want to edit orange.
Yeah, I think so we have a pH balancing spray that goes on the client before the spray tan, and a lot of times spray tans will come out orange because the pH in the client's skin is off or doesn't blend well with the product.
So basically, my fear of spray tan is just because it's just not being done right.
Correct.
So I shouldn't have that fear. They just need to go find.
No.
Which is, you know what? That's probably a reason why they should start doing. Actually, you said to start doing a spray tan 1 to 2 days prior, but maybe go do a trial.
Absolutely.
Way before to
highly recommend.
Fair enough.
But yeah, think about. I mean, the Kardashians on the red carpet.
Yeah.
They're so
orange.
busy. They need to. They probably don't have time to lay out in the sun when they're busy. So.
And they're not orange.
No.
Nice
and bronzed. That golden.
Yeah.
Violet undertone.
So I shouldn't be fearful of spray tan. I should just be fearful of unbalanced spray tan. What's a final takeaway that you can give us for prepping for your beauty timeline?
Yeah. So, groomsmen.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, I have to give my husband credit for this because although he is covered in tattoos and has a scruffy beard, he does.
He's very handsome.
Yeah,
Your
thank
husband's
you.
Very handsome.
I'm a little biased, but he gave me the idea of having groomsmen have on-site services the day of the wedding to get like shape-ups or beard trims. And I took a poll of guys that I ran into doing weddings, and every single one of them seemed very excited about it.
Absolutely.
So we're partnering up with Urban Fellow Barbershop, actually, starting in 2022 to offer groomsmen services, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a big hit.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see that. So basically, if you're listening, you can really go see Keri for all things beauty. Spray tans, hair, makeup, facials, and you can bring the soon-to-be hubby, too. I love it.
Yeah.
So, Keri, for our wrap-up question, what are some key points that couples should be asking makeup artists and hairstylists when they are inquiring to make sure that they are working with a professional company to ensure that their wedding day is going to be absolutely perfect?
So for starters, I would say definitely ask your makeup or hairstylist if they do phone consultations and or trials. Super important. It will allow you to see if you vibe with your artist. Number 2, ask your makeup artist, hairstylist if they do timelines for the day of the event. And number 3, I would say, what is your communication process, whether it be text, email, phone. You want to be able to get a hold of your makeup artist or hairstylist throughout the whole process.
Those are really good ones. I like it. Well, Keri, thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of Wedding Secrets Unveiled. You helped our listeners become one step closer to their journey of a stress-free wedding planning process. Can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, so our space is at 5875 Post Road in East Greenwich. We are on Instagram. It's Pro Radiance. And then on Facebook, it's just Pro Radiance Artistry. Website is www.proradianceartistry.com.
And for our listeners, we will have Keri's information on our episode show notes, which we will put up on our blog on our website at sarahzarella.com/podcast. Well, thank you, Keri, so much.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
I'm sure I'll see you very soon.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for listening to Wedding Secrets Unveiled. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you something. I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. We love photographing while having fun, of course. Check out our podcast page on our website for our show notes along with upcoming episodes with your local wedding experts. Listen in as we help you plan your epic event. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. I would so appreciate if you left a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support and let us know what you think. If you know any wedding experts that would like to be a guest, we have a link directly on our website where they can let us know. Thank you for listening.